Welcome to the GLFN. The GLFN is a defence structure of defensive development in new technological advancements. The technology and the advancements of the development of new defence builds a relationship to all of the new technologies that are being investigated and created. Areas of new development when it comes to magnetic field and the defensive structures of magnetics. A dome of a magnetic dome has been created, which is basically a ring of a structure that will build a magnetic field. The magnetic field is manipulated into a magnetic dome. The technology that is designed to go along with the domes of protection will be a wideband laser strip. Now, the wideband laser strip is laid in to the central outer ring of the core of the magnetic dome structure. When the dome of the magnetics is activated, the laser beam spread is also activated and creates a dome of a laser visible dome. So you get a laser visible dome. The magnetics controls the laser beam and curves and bends the laser beam to the magnetic field. So when they activate together, you can have a physical visible protection dome. Now, the dome itself is designed purely for defense. If you are inside the dome, there is a level of protection. When you are on the outside of the dome, you'll be able to pass straight through the field. You'll still be able to drive your vehicles from the interior of the dome to the outside of the actual dome itself. Now, because of the ability of magnetic fields to be able to scan objects as they pass through, you'll be able to do various checks on the fly in a radial diameter of defense. So the radial diameter of defense will be in place. If a vehicle traverses and passes through the field, you will be able to scan the vehicle as it passes through. Whilst they're in the area of the magnetic field itself, once they've traversed and passed through and are inside the magnetic field, you will still be able to scan their vehicles, scan their technology, scan personnel. You will be able to get hold of detailed knowledge of detailed information. So you could get skeletal record structures. You would be able to get the type of clothing and gear that they're wearing. You would be able to identify their origins through their genetical chains. You will be able to identify the vehicle, identify the types of metals in the vehicle, identify what the vehicle was designed for. If you can get hold of the information that the vehicle signature would possibly give off, you would get to know which country it came from. You would understand the factory in which it was made in. You would be able to do various global checks on the fly whilst this vehicle is in the magnetic field. And because you'll be able to get schematical designs of the actual vehicle itself, because anything that passes through and stays in a magnetic field, you are able to scan the structure. So whilst you're scanning the structure of the vehicle and also the personnel that are inside, you will be able to gather all their detailed data and information. So you'll be able to identify soldiers, you'll be able to identify the military that they're involved with, you'll be able to identify their medical records, and be able to identify exactly the type of personnel that they are. You'd also be able to do exactly the same with the vehicle, and exactly the same with the ability to be able to detailedly build the structural information from the actual from the actual vehicle. So you would get all kinds of schematical design structures. You would get where the engine is, you would get where their technology sits, you would get where their personnel are sitting. You would be able to identify certain areas of strengths and also identify certain areas of weakness. And this is purely just by having the vehicle inside the magnetic field. Now, you can either have it with the laser spread, which is visible, or you can have it without. If you have it without, it's a totally invisible protection dome. It will interfere, as most magnetics do, when it comes to communication, various other things, and it may interfere with their technology actually within the vehicle. If it's designed properly, though, and designed in a way where the communications might be interfered with but not registered in their craft or registered in their vehicle, that it's actually been interfered with, you can tailor a magnetic field to be able to allow information to get out, and they can still be able to communicate as if they've not broken any contact. But whilst inside the dome and inside the actual field, they will be monitored. All their communications will be monitored, and because they can be monitored and also tailored, in the sense of tailored monitoring, you should be able to interfere with their signal that is leaving the actual magnetic field and is connected to their base. So the infiltration of information, then the tailoring of information, and then the transport of misinformation back out to their base. Whilst you're getting all the knowledge of the information of what they're doing in the field, and that goes straight to your base. So you're getting two lots of information, one of an interference, of a magnetic interference, which you'll be able to tailor and send out a full signal to their base, and then keep the real data that you're gathering for yourself, and have that transported directly inside the magnetic dome, because it's a dome of protection. If there's let's say an interference from outside the dome, from their base, that requires to find out whether their communications are actually up to scratch, you could also, if they ever send, let's say, a signal into the magnetic field to see whether there's any interference going on, you could even tailor that. So as soon as it comes in and hits the magnetic field, you could already have an automatic system built into your computers that will lock onto this signal and be able to provide all sorts of false data. So you could confirm that everything's all right, you could confirm that the communication is correct, you could confirm that the vehicle is in full control of the environment, you could confirm that all of the information that the invading vehicle is trying to obtain is actually obtaining this information. But in the reality of the inside of the dome, the knowledge and information is being taken from them and stored in your system. That's one area of the development of the new technology that is hooked up to light technology computing. Now, it's a quantum-based computer system which basically controls light information and light technology. And it controls it and basically wields it in a way which is far quicker and faster than the copper technology that we've got now. The structures of development of this particular new computer system is in investigation and development. But it also holds lots of areas of interest when it comes to frequency and wave bands, and this includes the magnetic spectrum. And because we can create And because we can create these new defensive structures using the new technological advancements in military planning, the whole structure is really designed for defense and defense only, not for attack, not for military invasion or any form of military planning in the sense of attacking and killing and taking a land. It's all to do with defending a land. It's all to do with defending the population. It's all to do with defense and not military attack. Now, Austria as a country, when I was in their own country borders, they are in the area of planning future global war. Now, these wars are wars in countries and wars that will be planned by Austria. And because they're planning these structures of global wars, and they are planning these wars, we're even living in one right now as we speak. And they've always been doing this as a nation for hundreds of years now. When it comes to the nation known as Austria, in my generation, they were known as the idol worshippers and the immoral and lawless. Now, these people still exist, and they do have followers that also come from other nations. These followers are people which have been highly indoctrinated and highly tailored through torture. And because they've been highly indoctrinated and tailored through torture, they become faithful followers of the organizational group of Reich. So we're building with independent countries, of independent nations, structures of defense. And the reason why we're building these defensive structures is because if we manage to get hold of and control the lawless and the immoral, we will be able to build good structural defense for the future. Now, defense in the future may be seen as unnecessary because of, let's say, the peace that reigns. There is never ever a time period where defense is not necessary. When you look at creation and you look at nature, there are borders and boundaries, and there are defensive structures all over the place, all over, right? We have magnetic fields that are natural and they exist on our planet. And these fields have been created naturally, and they are a defense. They are a physical defense. There are animals and creatures in nature that will utilize and use these defensive structures. When birds are in certain areas and they are seeking their prey, when they fly into certain regions of certain places, when they're looking for certain food types, now they are equipped to be able to cope with these changes that happen. But it does interfere when they first get in there and when they're not aware of the fact that it exists. Now, every single year there is a brand new birth of flock, and all of these birds have to get to know the environment. Some of them don't even experience this interference. Some only experience it if they migrate or in the process of migration. So to keep your defensive structures together and to keep it in line with the nation's defense is far more natural in ecology of let's say defensive warfare rather than building warfare. We build defensive structures against warfare. Now, we do know that, you know, the world and the earth and nations and people of population of nations will change over time. They will change and they will become a different people. And in some cases, it's down to the leader. And if, say, there is an incident which interferes with another nation, then these people have a right to be able to defend themselves. But I'm hoping that by the time we get into what I would consider and hope for benevolent understanding of good knowledge, rather than the this other form of animalistic behaviour, of attack. If you look at nature itself, there is always the plan for defence. There is always animals that are going to defend their territory and defend their area, and they do it in various natural ways, and they do it extremely well. But of course, when it comes to man, who is a disobedient animal, really, or a human being, or sometimes inhuman, there is always this risk and chance to be able to stop the peaceful activities and end up in a situation of war. Hopefully that won't happen because of defensive technology. But there is further development of other defensive new technological advancements. But we'll talk about those on a later date. But at the moment we are dealing with magnetics, and we're dealing with magnetic domes and laser beams and laser spread. And we're also creating a resistance of a laser that will resist an environment. Now again, this laser wall is still a wall of a light wall, and you can still be able to pass through it, and it wouldn't cause you any harm or any damage. But when it comes to a structural gas or particles within a regional area behind a wall, would be able to be controlled and managed by the laser beam, and also by various other natural forces.